maybe we can pass the question about audiences, Australian audiences, along the panel. I mean, Rolf, do you...
Yeah, simple answer to the question is, well, none of our films, with one or maybe two exceptions, compete with Hollywood. And that's the same in every country in the world about. But 10 Canoes, of the 12 films that I've made, is the highest grossing film of my films. And so that's a very encouraging thing. And 10 Canoes and Samson and Delilah in their years were both amongst the top 3 or 4 grossing Australian films in this country. And so even though they're not always easy subject matter, there's an encouraging amount of interest in the sort of cinema that we're talking about.
Can I answer that lady over there? I've just sent some women over to Indonesia and they weave together. And it's a really nice thing, you know. And in filmmaking, it's a nice topic because you've got 3 cultures involved. You've got to understand that culture, that fireplace, and good. And our culture. And it's amazing thing when it happened. I saw it when they were doing the 2 girls, the twins one, Double Trouble. You have multicultural people working together in a film set, and it was amazing that we all respected one genre and that we were making films together. Yeah, so if we can invite families, it's like dancing. You and I dancing corroboree together. It's kind of the same way. Your dance is almost similar to mine, you know, and the movements and things. In the Philippines, they have the traditional school where they, you know, English is a second language, and so all those things are here as well. So all we need to do is have a bit of practice together, you know, make these things work, right? So it'd be nice to show these connections with people. You know, the songline actually goes into your country as well.
We have Julie? Question?
Thanks. I just want to pass on a little story. Tommy said that at Ramingining they're doing the dances in a modern way. A friend of mine has a granddaughter at Yirrkala who's 8, and last year she got on the phone and said, Nana, we're inventing new dances at school. The boys are doing rap and we're doing the girls are doing the Julia Gillard. And the chorus is moving forward.
As a comedy.
But I do have a question for all the panel. Really, the title is, you know, looking forward as well as looking back, and I'm curious to know what kind of stories from Indigenous filmmakers you want to see that haven't been made or aren't being addressed. You know, do they still come so simply out of the urgency of the social situation of our Aboriginal people, or can you imagine and dream, for instance, things like a love story? But I want to hear from everyone, Tommy.
I'll give you my pearl story that I'm going to do, and it's about love and how the love is taken by a white hand on a white pearl. And that's the kind of love story I like to do.
I think if you stop having dreams, and the stories that are out there, they're endless. I mean, you know, I'm as a curator curating exhibitions of contemporary Indigenous art, I have been listening for the last 15 years to people asking me, do I think the Aboriginal art bubble has burst? And I bust out laughing when I hear that, because, you know, I see in the papers that certain art critics write, we're losing all our masters. You know, the old people are dying, we don't have those stories, there's no new stories coming through. And I just think that's such a crock, because A, that makes me not exist, that makes my nieces and nephews and my nieces and nephews' children not exist. There's nothing to hope for. And their stories are just as valid, whatever their experiences are going to be. I'm thinking that Ramingining story. I was up in Ramingining, and I could hear all these boom boxes going, and I went out and I thought, what's going on? They'd been having this kind of dance practice, and so they had four dance gangs, all young boys ranging from about the age of 3 up to early 20s. And they came out and they just did the most amazing mix of choreography. They left Chooky dancers for dead. Mix of choreography to Michael Jackson. And all the families were out there sitting on that one bitumen road that's there. And I thought, why aren't I ever hearing these stories? Why aren't I seeing this? Why am I only hearing about... And yes, these things happen, youth suicide and petrol sniffing and all the rest of it. I want to hear all the stories. I don't want to just hear one story. And I went away from there feeling so uplifted. Everyone just, when it was over, everyone finished dancing. We just all went back to where we were staying, and it was just beautiful. So the stories are in those communities. They're in these cities and towns. They're here in Adelaide. They're out at Ceduna. They're wherever. And they're not stopping. There's not a point where that's the end of it, you know. So
Yeah, I'd like to go to other communities and make films there.
yeah.
Yeah, I really would. That's how I learn about other places, and I would like to go to, well, Ceduna. What a beautiful place. Yeah. So I'd like to have ability to be able to enjoy the country. You know, it's really difficult going to the blackfella country, isn't it? Well, boundaries and tribalism are really locked in too. You know, we've got to, we ourselves got to sort of learn to work together, and there's laws. You know, I can't just come here and think my law involves in this country. I have no song here. I'd be rude if to tell you that I'm part of this part of the world, Maka. Yet I've enjoyed the Flinders Ranges, right? Knowing that this country belongs to these people. Yeah? I must have that respect. I can't just come here and think I'm at home, Maka. I'm not. I'm a visitor to this place. Yeah? And same when you go Yirrkala and you see all the family there, right? It's the songline from here go up to the Caterpillar, and the songline from that way come down to the Caterpillar. You with me? So we all meet to that Caterpillar, and all the laws that pass. Anything past that Caterpillar, I've got nothing to say. So I'm like everybody else. Yeah. So I like to make films in Cooperpedy. I'd like to get my kids and do something. You know, bring them back. Yeah. Take over the women. Yeah. Trust that I can come to Auntie's place. Yeah. In this country. They allow me to do a film. Then I can be educated to my mob. This is how this family works. Yeah, this is their problem. Remember that little 16mm newsreel? You know, those ones we used to see them. Well, it's a bit like that. It's been done before, but we're using it in a blackfella context. Yeah, using law, it's important. I don't know how many knives, you know, me and Gulpil had to go through laws, Maka. Honestly, we had been put death warrant on us, yeah? And not, you know, it's no good coming from your own family that you get these warrants. That because you're doing a film. Hang on, in a whitefellow world, we're characters. No, but you're real. And you have to watch that. And I'm lucky I survived through all these things. And so did David, you know, and it makes you mad and all that sort of thing. But when you're dealing with us, please understand and respect law. You have law, and we have law. And we have to learn to work with those laws together. Then we can make good films together, you know?
Beck, what are you doing next?
Oh, look, I reckon it's okay to be ambitious. I think it's okay to want to go to Hollywood and do a thriller, which I, you know,
Can I
don't
come?
personally want to do.
I can learn to.
Why not? You know, I mean, I think I'm on loud all of a sudden. I don't know what's next for me personally, but I know that there's really exciting films coming up. Like Wayne Blair's about to do a beautiful film called Sapphires, which is like a Dreamgirls and beautiful big musical, and you know, set during the war and all of these sorts of things. But personally, I'd really like to play around with the thriller genre and do some work in there one day. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Who knows?
I think Julie, also it's very complicated by the lack of the Indigenous people are not one people. And so there isn't a community that I've been to that hasn't had 3 or 4 profoundly extraordinary stories that beg to be told cinematically. And that's one issue, and each of them have their own stories that are quite different to the stories over here. But then you've got the Indigenous filmmakers who have their own lives and who look at their own lives for inspiration for their films. And so, I think looking forward for me, there's going to be a long, long time before there aren't a million extraordinary stories able to be told, and most of them will never be told. And then gradually, it will be a wholly empowered Indigenous filmmaking part of filmmaking, and they'll just make their stories, and some will be Indigenous and some won't be.
All right. Unfortunately, I think we only have time for maybe one question. One question. So there was a question down here.
Yeah.
Yes.
My name's Michael. It's exploring this working together idea. I'm a 4th generation Australian filmmaker, and I have written what I would call an Australian film. I don't kind of see black and white issues when I write. The film I've written is a contemporary story. It has an Indigenous person as the central character. If I go to a production company, inevitably they tell me I can't write that story because I'm a white fella. What do you think about that?
If I can answer that first,
Go.
I think that for the fragility of Indigenous culture, it's deeply strong, but in terms of its emergence, particularly in filmmaking, that right now, that's completely reasonable. 100%. Okay? For me, from my perspective, for 10, 20 years, however long it takes, until that is strong enough and confident enough, let it be like that. Okay? It's your job. Okay? You want to write this? You can, but you better find yourself a partner to do it with who can tell you, no, that's wrong.
That's probably a given, having
Okay,
respect
but
for
you
the
see,
Indigenous.
if you then approach the production company with the Indigenous person who has done that with you, then you can immediately say, no, that's not the issue. Look, here, we are doing this together. Okay? Okay. Be careful also that people will give you an excuse to say no. Okay? There are thousands of scripts and maybe 20 films a year made, and everybody looks for an excuse to say no. Okay? And very often you'll cop that as the excuse, even though it's not a valid excuse, because it's an easy way to say no to you. It's terrible, I know. It is.
Can I answer him too? I really want to answer that question. I really do. I really love you for doing that. Thank you. Yeah? Keep it up, please, buddy. Whatever you do. This is the principle of the bureaucratic life I tell you about. They block us. Yeah? Put on that old blue singlet, buddy. Yeah. True, honest. We've got to stop these sort of things. We need to work and develop these sort of things and allow our writers to continue, for God's sake. Yeah?
Okay.